Yeah.
Watch out for project creep. That's exactly what Jake is talking about, where they originally hired you to draw a robot riding a dinosaur. And now all of a sudden they get to this stage, they've seen your sketches and they're like, you know what? We don't want that anymore. We want, a damsel in distress in a castle. Like, the project is entirely different. And my reaction to that is always, hey, that's awesome. Let's go ahead and bill for these 5 steps these 4 steps that we've already done. And let's write up a new contract, because that's a new job. It's not the same job anymore. And that's the easiest way to handle that. It's the most professional way to handle that. Definitely don't go into the full change. Now you're doing a completely different illustration. So it should be within the realm of whatever the first couple steps that happened in this stage 1, the correspondence. It should still point to that. If it starts changing too much, just say, hey, let's go ahead and close this job out, and we'll do a new one.
Yeah. I'll bill you for my time so far. We'll go from there.
Exactly.
They're going to be like, well, what?
Yeah. A lot of times, that will be the right. Let's just go back to our first thing and we'll pick one. And it's a great, I'm glad you brought that up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry. And all 3 of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publications in the business, publishers in the business. We've all taught illustration at university art programs. We've published somewhere around 75 books. And I said that backwards, so it messed me up.
We're awesome. And every week we come at you guys with different audience questions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you're going to learn something brand spanking new.
And this is our last episode of the year. And I thought this episode would be a little more, it would just be us kind of riffing off of what we experienced this year as working illustrators, what went well, what we wished went better, and what we want to improve for next year. So hopefully to give you kind of insight on how you want to do things with your own illustration career, business, side gig or whatever you got going on there. So first, I just a quick overall, was 2022 for you as a working illustrator a good year, same as last year, a bad year? How do you think you did as regards to the projects you worked on, the money you earned, the work-life balance? What would you say for you guys it was? Go ahead.
For me, it was about the same.
About the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
That's very
how boring is that?
Conversational, Will. Wow.
And just now, 500 people switched to the next episode.
Well, I could make some stuff up. Man, it was, there were ups and downs. There were twists and turns.
Never mind.
Some months were better than others and some were worse. And overall, net positive, I think it was about the same.
You forgot. Right. Will's jaded now, and he just doesn't want to talk about it. He's that old scruffy guy who just like, My year was amazing in a lot of different ways. It was definitely an educational year, as many of them have been. I moved to a new place in the middle of it, which, that's more personal, but it does change your sort of life. But when I got here, it was very much in line with my work-life balance. Like I like going snowboarding. I like going mountain biking, and I'm right at the base of the Rockies. And so that stuff just took off, and I'm in better shape than I've been in a long time. I will say that my anniversary of being fit, like really in shape, 4-year anniversary, four New Year's ago, I decided to get in shape, and I kept it up. I didn't miss any time or anything. So that's coming up, but I'm in better shape now than I have been. For the work stuff, I did the Kickstarter, which was a wild, much bigger project than I thought it was going to be going in. And it was successful in many ways. I like the project. That said, the downside of Kickstarters, I didn't anticipate of how much admin there is. I wish if I'm going to do it again, I need to either have partners or a system in place where I went like 2 months where I didn't draw or paint anything because I'm filling out orders and I'm correcting people's addresses and I'm working with the printer and I'm sending stuff to print. And I mean, Will's smart because he hired a graphic designer, but I did all of mine. So I had to design the box. I mean, that took like, 2 weeks just to get the box right. And then the foil stamping and all that stuff. And then, so you just become a company. That's what I didn't fully appreciate about Kickstarters. Like, you better be ready to be a company for that thing. You're not an illustrator for the thing, which I'm used to being. You are in charge of shipping. You are in charge of quality control. You're in charge of all of it. And it's tough. It's like, I want to draw and paint, and anything that stops that for too long starts to bug me. And so I realized that next time, and I'm not saying there's not going to be a next time, but I just need to factor that in a little bit more. Because I just like making stuff. But that said, all the other stuff, very successful. I mean, our teaching has gone really well, and I've got a great office to work in. And so for the new year, I'm planning all these different projects because that is behind me now. And so now I'm it was kind of nice too, because now I'm licking my chops. I'm excited about drawing and these projects I'm working on and moving back into children's books again.
When did you actually move in to your new house?
This time last year, we moved here.
December, right?
Yep, December. So I've been here one year.
I feel like it took you a couple months just to get situated before you were actually like back to work, right?
Well, I remodeled the house by myself. And so I was living here for a little while with no furniture and on plywood floors. Like, my family hadn't moved out yet. And so I'm just no furniture, it felt so weird.
I remember you going crazy.
It was
You
kind
started
of
talking to yourself. You had like a volleyball with like sticks shoved into it.
If you've seen The Shining, that's kind of where I was headed. If my wife and son didn't show up soon enough.
And I feel like with Will, just outside looking in, Will, you got really good at the work-life balance, leaning more towards life. I feel like you didn't do any drawing until this pickleball book this year.
You think?
It seemed that way.
It seemed like.
It did seem.
What
that
did
way.
you
Yeah,
do before the book?
I definitely took some time. That's for sure. Well, I did a couple of those desert paintings, and
Yeah, you did like 2 paintings.
I
in
did
that
some
book.
freelance and stuff that is just kind of nondescript freelance. And
But in 2022, what would you say? How many hours a week did you work? Average.
probably a good 20 to 30. So pretty light. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Lee?
Probably, it depends on. I mean, probably that amount of time, but for each section. So there's teaching, and then there's illustration, and then there's production, and then there's my remodel. That took up, if you added all those together, easily 50 hours a week maybe. And then all the extreme sports stuff on the side took up the other half. So it was just, and then I think I have a family too. I think I see them every now and again.
I was doing a lot of wrapping on my Kickstarter at the beginning of the year. And then since August, I've been working really hard on this book project, which is turning into a lot more than just the book. And so lately I've been putting in more like probably 50 or 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
I think Jake, for our perception of Will, he kind of kept the project under wraps for a long time. So we kind of weren't seeing anything, and he wasn't showing anything. And now we're starting to see all that stuff. So if he was just telling us as he was doing it, it probably would have been.
But still, I mean, a 30-hour work week, that ain't bad. Like, that's some good life living going on there. Work life.
Oh yeah. A lot of pickleball playing, a lot of hiking, bike riding, general socializing.
Do you guys think people would be better off if, I've always thought that a Friday, Saturday, Sunday time off and then a 4-day work week is the optimal way to live a life. And you're very productive in 4 days. And then you have 3 days off. You got 1 day to run your errands, and you got 2 days to kind of play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would work for society.
That would be nice. So this year for me, I front loaded my year making a comic that I was going to kickstart. And then I shifted gears and went into making book proposals because my agent was like, I think we could get some book deals here. Here we are at the end of the year, and these proposals are still sort of floating. There's positive feedback. The publishing world sometimes goes very slow. I got notes on some of these, so I got to go back in and fix some of them if they want a book deal. But when I started out this year, I was like, okay, I have some money saved up. I can put some time into these book proposals. Once those deals land, then I can sort of back pay that savings. And because those book deals never landed, we're still working on them. I had to come up with some sort of income quick. I'd been turning down freelance too to work on projects, right? Personal projects. And so I was like up a creek. So that's why I launched the Spaceships book. And the Spaceships book was sort of like a save my bacon type of situation.
Did it save your bacon?
It definitely saved a chunk of bacon. And then I think because of all the visibility of the Spaceships books, me doing the Kickstarter, just promoting it, doing live streams, talking about it, which essentially that was from preparing for the Kickstarter was May to June. June to July was running the Kickstarter. July to November was fulfillment, like finishing the book, sending it off to the printer, and shipping it out, right? So that was sort of the last half of my year was just focused on this book. But then I started getting all this freelance stuff coming in because I don't know. I think those two kind of go hand in hand. People are like, we need some artist for the project. There's this guy here and he's just constantly talking about this thing and he seems like he'll work. And so I started saying yes to all this freelance because, again, needed the cash. And now I'm in this state where I'm doing too much work, fulfilling a Kickstarter, doing the freelance work, it's trying to maintain the, family relationships and stuff like that. And so, so for me, the first half of the year was great work-life balance, making zero money with the hopes that something would pay off. The last half of the year, I felt like I've been doing a year's worth of work in the last 6 months, right? So moving forward, let's talk about 2023. Next year, I think I've found a better way to balance out the work that actually makes money versus balanced out with you got to do proposals, you got to like get things ready because because you want to get a book published, you want to get these book deals. And so a balance between the non-paying work or the hopefully paying work and the paying work. And I think I'm getting in a better place there where it can be a good balance. But that's sort of my 2023 plan. I also I want to do a Kickstarter every year moving forward. And so if I have time, I'm going to do a Redshift Renegades Kickstarter because I did 1/3 of that comic at the beginning of the year before I did the Spaceships book. So I want to do the rest of the 2/3 of that and launch that. But if I'm not able to do that, in my back pocket, I have The Antler Boy, which is a collection of my short comic stories. It was the first Kickstarter I ever launched. That book has been out of print for like 5 years. So I want to do a relaunch, a reprint design. I've designed a new cover for it. It was a hardcover book. I want to come out with a soft cover book and do some new prints, do some pins for it, stuff like that, and have that sort of be like my back pocket Kickstarter project for this next year to, sort of pad the income a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. What are you guys at for 2023? What are you thinking?
Isn't it funny that we've been doing this for so long and it's still like, okay, guys, I think I got this figured out. Like it's amazing how difficult this is. I just want to drive that point home that man, it's only do things. Have you ever noticed it when you're explaining things in hindsight, like what you did 2 years ago? It sounds linear and it sounds so definite. Like, oh yeah, I did that book and then I did that poster and then I did a Comic-Con, whatever. And it sounds so linear and so planned and so
Right.
straightforward. But in the real time, it is so wild to be a creative worker where we have to make stuff that's not funded and then just pray that it works, and then we have to fulfill that or work for somebody else, but then you're not able to move to that personal stuff that you're trying to do. So we're always trying to balance the same stuff that our listeners do. They write in and ask these questions, and I hope we don't ever come across as know-it-alls, because we don't. I mean, we're still trying to figure it out ourselves too. Sometimes it's easier to see from the outside looking in on somebody than it is. I finally realized that I tend to have a tendency to I'll take on just enough stuff and then one more project. And by project, I mean a huge thing. Like, I'm going to do art shows this year, or I'm going to do this giant gallery show in another state, or, whatever. And it's the one thing that causes all of it to be chaos. And so this year I finally decided, like, what am I going to make? What one thing am I going to make next year? Is it going to be, if it's going to be a gallery show, then that's what I'm going to make. And I'm not going to make a kid's book or whatever, or a Kickstarter, or if it's going to, and so I realized that I want to make a children's book, and I'm just all in on that. I canceled all my show stuff. I am going to lean into my prints because that's passive income, and I've already set that up, and I've never gone through the formal time to really organize that. It's pretty organized, but sometimes it's still a little chaos, and I think there's more money that can be made easily there. So I'm going to lean into that.
Have you explored having an assistant just come in and handle that whole side?
I have one finally coming in.
Oh,
yeah, finally. I tried to do it before, and because I was so unorganized, that she would get there, and then I'd end up doing we'd both end up doing all the stuff because she didn't know how to do it. And so I didn't have enough time. And
you have to invent the process so that it's really like step 1, step 2, step 3.
Right. And understand what tasks I want that person to do. And I understand that now. So it's kind of like Jake, like I kind of took a step back formally and said, okay, this is the thing I'm going to make. This is the thing I'm going to have my assistant help me with. Here's how I'm going to make passive income. And I realized you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want. And that's a really important thing, because I tell it to my students, but then I fall victim to it. And then I have too much. And what I don't like about that is it works you too hard, and then it dilutes the work. And the one thing I really love about this job is I love making images. I love looking at the images. I want to be there in that creative mode as much as I can possibly be there. And so what can I do to facilitate that, And that's what I love about it. And so if the second you schedule too much, all of a sudden now you're not doing that. You need unfiltered time to sit down and mess with stuff, draw and paint and play. So that's my focus.
What about you, 2023, Will?
Well, so I'm really into this pickleball market niche, because it's like one of the fastest growing markets, and I just and I'll mention also that I'm documenting this on YouTube. So every week I'm releasing a video that's explaining this process that I'm going through, this project. But I kind of lucked into living in this, not lucked. I mean, it just is what it is, where I'm in this community of senior citizens that it's the biggest club here in the resort is pickleball. And I'm now connected to all those people who all know about this book, and they're already asking if they can pay me for it already. Now that's a small little group, but there are groups like this all over the country. And I'm going to be releasing like how I'm going to get into those groups as well. But they're grandparents that want to buy this stuff for their grandkids, I had a woman come over today and buy 4 books. I had a woman come over a couple of days ago and buy 2. And then I don't even have the book that I'm working on now. But just living down here,
they're pre-ordering it.
No, they're ordering my other books.
Okay.
And then there's like and then I found out there's like a vendor's day here
Mm-hmm.
And so I went down and tried to register for that, and I'm kind of on a waiting list. But when they heard what I do, that I actually wrote into the story this resort into the into the book, which was intentional, as a cheap marketing ploy to get more attention on it. So they're like, well, how do we get this guy in here? Because he's got, so they're trying to. So I don't know. It's like it's pretty exciting to have a niche market that could be.
But you're looking at this like you're not planning on hand selling, 1,000
No.
books. You're looking at this as like product validation, so that really you're eyeballing Amazon. And
Well, I'm going to sell on Amazon, but I'm also like, I don't know. I don't want to reveal too much because I want people to go to my YouTube channel and follow the series there as well. But I'm putting all the stats, like I put in my order for books today, and I ordered 5,000 books that I'm going to pay for out of my own pocket.
Where are you going to store that?
I'll have a storage unit, but I'm worried that I didn't order enough. I'm really worried that that's not enough.
That's the best case. That's the best worry of all.
It is
5,000 copies. That's a lot.
And I should be getting a quote today or tomorrow on a puzzle because I'm making a puzzle to go along with it.
I hope everything's spelled right in that book.
I mean, we went through it. We had 4 people going through it.
I hope you didn't forget a page.
No, that's why I hired a designer. See, like when you do a book, Jake. Or Lee, when you guys do yours, you design it yourselves, right? And you send the printer your files. I don't trust myself with editing. I don't trust myself with. I'm gonna mess something up. It's in my nature. I know who I am, and I can. I need to work with someone who's catching stuff. And so like I'll just spill this in there. I hit a pickle on every page, right? But the designer that I hired, she is such a, I guess it's left brain, right? It's just it's the detail oriented.
It's more analytical.
She's so left brained that she says she can't help but find inconsistencies and incongruities and mistakes and stuff.
This pickle's
so she
longer than this other
well,
pickle.
she came back and one of them was phallic, and you caught that one, Jake.
Yeah.
And you're like, you gotta change this. So that was by accident. But then so she says, you said in the front of the book that there's a hidden pickle on every page, but on your spreads, there's only, it's one image that goes across the gutter. There's 2 pages there. So you're going to have kids that are going to look for a pickle on both pages. What if we changed it to there's a hidden pickle in every illustration? I'm like, well, that works, but it doesn't because there's a couple of pages where there's 2 illustrations or 3. And I put it one in one of those because I said on every page. And she's like, well, so you have options. You either, you got to add it. And so I went back in and added them on every drawing. So now it says in the book, but it's little things like that, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, you'll get letters from kids going, I found all the pickles on these pages, but I can't find them on pages 26 and 31.
No, you'll get letters from adults. It's like, there's no pickle on page 23. 1 star. 1 star.
1 star.
I gotta say, I am excited about this. I want this thing to just rocket, just blow up, right? And and I love being here at the beginning and seeing this, and I'm it's awesome that you're doing the YouTube thing to like document this thing too. Like, wouldn't it be cool if like I don't know, if someone made a YouTube video weekly about how they made Crocs and just like
or the ring
shoes. I think people are gonna love these shoes.
The ring camera.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever heard Shaq talk about that?
No, I haven't talked to Shaq in like
apparently he was going away and he wanted some kind of camera thing. He looked on Amazon and saw, there's this doorbell thing. And it's before it ever became big, before anybody knew about it, right? It was just a fledgling little company. And he found out that I don't know if they had gone through their IPO or if he just invested in personally, but he got one, installed it, and was like, I cannot believe that more people don't know about this. I can answer the door as if I'm home through the intercom on my phone. This is going to blow up. So he gave him $1 million or something like that. And he 100x'd it. It was like one of those investments that just,
I did not know that.
He saw it in the beginning. Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's what I've got going on with this market, but one thing that I do like is there have been a few times in my life where I've had a feeding frenzy on a product, and it's magical. And one was making a T-shirt for a BYU game, which
I knew you were going to say that.
Talked
Your
about that
BYU
before.
game T-shirt.
Yeah,
gig.
and we sold out in 20 minutes. People, I'm telling you, 5 or 10 hands of people with cash in their hands trying to get shirts off my back.
What did the shirt have on
we
it?
won. All it said was
game?
beat Miami. I said take a bite out of Miami. Well, it was BYU. Miami was the number 1 player, and BYU was number 2 or something like that. And we were fighting for number 1.
You're like, if we win, I'm going to sell all these. If not,
well, I
ship
thought we
them
would
to
sell them either
third world
way.
country.
I was way too optimistic, so I thought we'd sell them either way because I thought people would want to wear them to the game, and all the BYU students were like, everyone knows we're going to lose. I don't want this stupid shirt. So it went from being a product that you couldn't sell, and we had 1,100 of them, and we didn't have the money to lose as poor college students, and so this was back in 90, 91, somewhere around there, and then it went to a souvenir shirt. It turned into a souvenir shirt.
Yeah.
In like at the as the clock ran out. People came out of the stadium, they saw our shirts, and they flocked
do the
to us.
math every year for like Super Bowl, where they're like, okay, we're going to print.
They print both. Yeah.
We're going to print
They
both.
have to.
And we'll just
Throw away
destroy
the
ones
others.
that lost.
Yep. So there was that time, and then there was the time when I was first doing Little Heroes, and I was at Denver Comic Con. And I told Wayne, it's ironic that I told this story to Lily today, but I said, hey, we were brand new at doing the convention thing, and I knew that we had been to like 5 conventions before, and we'd always made a few sales afterwards. And I was like, let's eat dinner based on what we get after the show closes. So as soon as they say, okay, we're done on Sunday night, we'll count like, and if we don't get anything,
McDonald's or it's steak, right?
yeah, something like that. And we made $900 after the show ended.
Oh, wow.
And it was pretty cool. So it's one of those things where I'm looking forward to being in a market where there's really virtually no competition, at least for a little while.
Man, I love seeing that from the beginning too, because what I love about it is it's so intentional. You're like, I see this thing, this market's not being served. I'm going to make something. It's so deliberate, like the whole way. I'm with Jake, like watching this thing, like, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I think it could blow up, but either. I mean, that's the cool part is you don't know. But what I love is it's kind of a testament to your thought process as an entrepreneur, not just an illustrator. And that's kind of what we talk about so much here is make the thing. And you're not just like, oh, these other people made a cool thing, so I'm going to make a cool thing and hopefully ride on their coattails. You're like, no, I'm going over here where there's nobody. Yeah. And I had that same feeling, a little bit different because you're doing it. So you like pickleball and you like illustration. And so you combine those things together and now you're gambling. Like, is there a market there or not? When I first started doing concept design for architects in Los Angeles, I had sort of that moment too. But I kind of fell into it backwards. I wasn't like, oh, this market's underserved, I'm going to do that. I had a friend who was an architect who needed a drawing. And I do the drawing and all of a sudden, all his friends and the people he presents the drawing to is like, who did this drawing? Nobody's doing hand-done drawings anymore. And then I got the next one. And then I get the next one. I was like, oh my God, nobody is going after this group of people. And so it was just a smorgasbord. It was like I could have as much or as little work as I wanted. And I was just like a kid in a candy store, but it's not ultimately what I wanted to do. So it wasn't as fulfilling, but it was just kind of like alternate area, man. When you find those little pockets, and you're going after it just so specifically, I love it.
which you actually frustrated me this year because you had this killer product, Lee, the tarot deck, and you did 27 cards for it. Is that how many it was?
22 total.
22. Yeah. And everybody's begging you for like the full deck. And you're like, nah, I don't want it. I don't want to do that. I'm done. You could just sit down. It's all illustration, do the full deck. And now you've got like, you're in the same, situation as well. You just get a distributor and now you're selling, you're sitting on a throne of tarot decks.
Shoot, it's a good point. I mean, maybe when I was saying that, I was at the end of burnout on doing all the work on it, and so maybe it'll come back around. But I got to figure out. I'm not I don't come from that world, and so like when you give me the concept of illustrate death or illustrate love or something like that, I can come up with these. I love concepting that out and illustrating it. The rest of the cards are like the Three of Cups. I got nothing. Like I don't know. I need to research for a week to figure out.
No,
okay, what is this card?
What you do is you go purchase 20 tarot decks as research. You see what everybody did for the Three of Cups, and you make something that only Lee White would make.
She's just got 3 cups on it. I've got a couple. I did that.
I mean, it's not a huge problem.
I know, but I mean, you're probably right, but I'm just like, it just doesn't fill me. If I can figure out what my connection is to those cards, I'll do it. But it's 52. Like if I did one a week, I would have no income for a year.
How many
I got
is
it.
a full deck?
It's a 3-person tea party in the sky. That's what Lee White would do. So they're just floating.
The tables
in the sky.
got balloons attached to it, and it's like
I tried to get Jake to guess my illustration the other day. He fell horribly short. He got the bike part right. There was a bike in there, so
it was. I don't know. Lee's like, okay, what am I illustrating right now? I said, character on a bike. What else did I say? There's the bike's got balloons attached to it, and it's
there's
floating
leaves
through the sky.
floating through the air. Yeah.
You'll never get this magic. You can list all the things.
There's a floating narwhal.
I just have a Lee White bingo card, right?
I've never done a narwhal. We all do, though. We all have the 4 things that we illustrate.
We all do. So let me ask you guys this. We talked about what went well this year, what we want to do next year. I want to ask you, one of the big things to drop in 2022 was AI art. And we've
I knew
talked
you were
about
going to go there.
I mean,
you have to.
On the day we record this, there's a massive protest happening on ArtStation,
Right.
where people are posting a no art image designed by, I think the person who kicked this off was Nicholas Cole, and ArtStation's disabling comments, so you can't comment on these posts too, which is really weird. The whole reason for the protest is a lot of the art styles that people are using in AI art is based on ArtStation artwork, images that were scraped from ArtStation.
Right.
So there's kind of 2 problems here. One, images used in their data sets without permission. 2, these companies making money off of these images, Stable Diffusion, these different AI companies are valued at millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And 3, that ArtStation isn't doing anything on their end to protect or to differentiate AI art from traditional made art, right? And by traditional, I mean by humans, right? Not painted, traditionally, right? So those are kind of 3 issues, but so that's what's happening there. That's just one segment of this broader conversation that's happening. So 2022, I think, is the year of AI art. 2021 was NFTs in the art community, right?
Which is funny. You don't hear much about those anymore.
No, you don't. It's not a problem anymore. What's up, Lee? You called it?
I'm just saying.
Okay, so what's your prognostication for AI art?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on the opposite side. For the NFTs, I was poo-pooing the NFTs.
You're
and
like,
thought they would die. And I was right. And now I think the opposite with AI. I don't want to say I'm laughing at the protest because feel I understand why the protest is happening and I can sympathize with that. It's like trying to stop the internet when it first came out in 2000. Like, it should all be just traditional paint.
Right.
There should be no internet. There should be traditional portfolios. You can't fight against this. It's here, and the problem is, it's good already, and it's going to get way better.
All right, I got to share my screen and show you some.
Okay.
Sharing screen.
All right, here we go.
Screen.
This is a comic book that was written and illustrated by AI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Really good.
Have you seen it, Lee?
I haven't seen this one. No. That character's fantastic.
Is it called The Land of Mutant Hands?
I know, right? Look at the hands right here. They can't handle hands. Look at this. There's like an extra mouth down here. But I mean, like, how hard will it be for it to figure that out, right? Look at these hands.
Yeah, so 6 fingers.
Why can't it figure out hands? What's going on there, Jake?
It's because it doesn't know what it's actually making. The AI art is just piecing together pixels, zeros and ones. And so it's not working off it just understands things surface level. It doesn't understand structure, right? So once AI is able to incorporate 3D modeling technology in there, like, oh, you need a character standing in this pose, and it's posing a hand and then just putting a filter over the top of it. I don't know if that's how it's going to work or not, but
it's going to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and if you guys are listening, we did share some images on our YouTube channel, which is the Society of Visual Storytelling.
School of Visual
Storytelling YouTube. Just Google that on YouTube. So
formerly known as the Society.
So Lee's right. It's the genie is out of the bottle, right, or out of the lamp.
They tried to stuff the car back in the bottle. Didn't work out.
So, but here's the problem, because these companies, there's real problems with their data sets that they're pulling all these images from. These data sets are, and the algorithms that they're working with are racist. When you type in "give me a doctor," most likely it's going to be a white male, right? So then you have to type in extra components. It doesn't, it sort of bases all these images that it's creating off of the corresponding data that goes with it, right? So there's those issues. The data sets that the images that they're pulling these from were acquired for nonprofit reasons, but now are being used for profit.
Right.
But then there's troubling images in there. So they have images of violence, like terrorist videos and photographs of horrible stuff. They have pornography in there. They have people's faces for medical records, right? And
so
then they have all
HIPAA.
this artwork from artists who haven't, who haven't given them authorization on that, right? And not to mention all these other images that are authorized. So what's going to happen is no major AAA or video game company or animation studio is going to want to use AI art in production
because they're worried about getting sued for copyright.
The legal reasons. Some artists could say, "Hey, I see, 5% of my art in this thing here.
You owe me 5% of your profits."
Yeah, something.
Well,
like
that's why concept artists should be shaking in their shoes. If anybody's going to get replaced first, it's them, because it's not the finished piece that they're doing the research with.
Yeah, but I can see a future where it's a part of the concept artist workflow, right? Whether it's in the same way that a concept artist has a Pinterest board or a reference board with everything that they want to work off of, because instead of scouring, because right now, I mean, I've done I do concept art for companies all the time. The art director will be like, okay, here's a mood board. This is what we want it to feel like. And there's going to be art on there that they've just scraped from the internet themselves. Like, we like this card that was designed by this guy. We like this thing here. We like, now you put these together and make something, right? And I could very well go in and type in prompts and have AI kind of mishmash these things together and come up with something. But it's still just a concept, and it still needs to be refined and like designed by an artist. And the final design needs to be something more bespoke and like crafted, because
Bespoke? Did you say bespoke?
yeah.
Lee, when you
look
graduate
it up.
to Jake's level, you'll be using words like that. as well.
He's got bespoke, I think, pulled up on his computer right now.
Do not. It's just a part of my vocabulary. Anyway, they're gonna need it, something that's really has an artist hand to it, because you can't hand I mess with AI to like design something. The other day I was messing with it, like, let's come up with a futuristic Batmobile or whatever, just for fun. I showed you some of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have a concept of it, but a modeler doesn't know what it looks like from the back view. And if I type in, try to get these prompts to work, like, show me the back view, it's going to give me an entirely different thing, right? Like, so
For
where it's at right now, it's not that. And it could be some point it is doing that, but there still needs to be, like, I don't know, there's arguments too that say, like, well, at some point the machines are all going to learn that you need a movie about Ridley Scott's Batman set in 1999, made to look as if it was built in 1982, and it's a retro futuristic Batman movie, and it's going to make the whole movie for you, and you're going to pay $20 to watch it, and
Right.
and it's a custom bespoke AI movie just for you, right? Yeah, so that's possibly a future, and no artist was involved in that. And that, maybe that is inevitable, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to really appreciate something like a Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro that is handcrafted by artists and made beautifully, and is from the point of view of a specific, person, and they have a statement that they want to say on life through this artwork. Just because AI is providing something for me that also fits my taste buds doesn't mean that, I'm going to say no to something handcrafted by humans.
Right. It's kind of like if a new food came out, you might like the new food or the new treat, but it doesn't mean you hate the other stuff you were eating before.
Right.
Right. I mean, it doesn't, you just don't trade everything in.
Right.
I'd like to make another point with that. I'd love if you're done. You got more to that?
No, go for it.
I was having this conversation last night. That's why it was kind of fresh in my head. But like, I enjoy drawing and painting, so that's not going to stop. But if the value of my drawing and painting goes away because AI is so good and does that, whatever, I keep drawing and painting on the side. But my value in terms of income and my job is not because I draw well or I paint well, and I will shift in a heartbeat if I'm now, like, say AI comes up with the best images, whatever. Well, you still got to make it into something like Will's pickleball book. It doesn't know how to turn it into a book, and then where's it going to sell it, and where's it going to market it. And so, if I'm pivoting, the only thing that's changed is how the images are made, but I'm still driving these projects and where they end up and how I relate to them. And so the worst thing you can do in all this, in my opinion, is hold your only value to being the one thing that you do. I don't consider my value in just drawing and painting. That's just a small part of it. That's how I make it, but it's not the only thing. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I don't know. I think
a lot of
go ahead, Will.
A lot of your values in your ideas too, and that's going to be the same for artists that are using AI, right? They have to know what to put in to generate certain ideas that they think will appeal to people.
Yeah.
As far as retail products go. So
I want to say too, like, I love Whoppers. I don't eat them all the time, like a Burger King Whopper, right?
Do you get cheese on that or no cheese?
I do no cheese on my Whopper, but that doesn't mean I don't like a cheeseburger. Five Guys, I'll do cheese on a Five Guys, that's for sure. But let me say this though, the Whopper I went into, was it McDonald's or Burger King? You go into these fast food restaurants and they have them set up now where you don't even talk to a person. You just punch in what you want.
Yeah.
And then someone brings out your order. And if they could, and they would, they'd make a machine that could just make the burger start to finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, AI has created.
You could type in like McWhopper, and you get a hybrid between McDonald's and Burger King.
Okay, so yeah, every once in a while I'm going to order that, and maybe some people that's all they want to eat, but that doesn't mean some days I don't want like street tacos from a van, on the corner. Just because, it's a unique flavor that I can't, and an experience that I can't get anywhere else. It's like we've solved the food problem in first world country. Like nobody is hurting for food here. If at the very least, you can go buy rice from the grocery store and just eat rice every day. Like nobody's going hungry. There's food for everybody. So how come restaurants aren't out of business? Like nice restaurant. How come food trucks aren't out of business? It's because people want something unique, handcrafted, special, or they want the experience. Sometimes the food is not as good as a Burger King Whopper, but the experience was way better than going to Burger King. And that's what you're paying for. And so art's kind of the same way. Somebody's just going to want something AI made for them, handcrafted just for them by AI. But also doesn't mean they're not going to want to go see, a live play put by humans,
Right.
something like that.
The same version of this argument comes around every decade or so. I will say that this one's a little more revolutionary. But do you remember when ebooks first came out, and it was supposed to be the end of print? You know what I mean? Even David Carson, great graphic designer, his book titled "The End of Print" from right around that era, and it wasn't the end of print. It wasn't even close. It never even really dented print.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, sometimes I do read a book on my iPad, but that doesn't mean I don't love having a really nice, handcrafted, even if it's done in a print shop, just a nice holding a book in my hand, feeling the pages, smelling the ink.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I actually feel pretty silly. I have to jump in on that because I believed it. I believed it was the end of print.
Yeah.
And I thought that, and so that's when I spent all that time doing the Gary's Place story app along with Gary's Worms, and just really invested a ton of time and energy and money into those projects, as did our friend in animation storyboarder Ryan Woodward with this beautiful app, The Bottom of the Ninth, probably the best story app ever made, to the tune of $50,000 or $70,000 that he out of his own pocket.
It was so good.
And yeah, what we found out was that it didn't take over.
No, it didn't.
That was one of those I would chalk up as a really good learning failure in a lot of ways.
You had to try it. You had to, this new technology had to go out there. But imagine if he had put all that time and effort into just making an animated short. That would be way more watchable. It would still have a life. Like you could go, people would be like, "Oh, remember this?" or "Have you seen this yet?" No one's downloading that app anymore.
Well, how much has he gotten out of the Thought of You? By the way, if you haven't watched Thought of You on YouTube, his little animation, go watch that. And
it's awesome.
And that cost him so much less, both in time and money, than the app. And the app is, you have to renew to keep that app alive. You got to pay your $100 and whatever to Apple every year, to keep it in the App Store.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I don't even know if he's kept up on that.
So future of AI, essentially, we're coming down. It's not going anywhere. This is where we're landing, right? It's not going anywhere, but also neither are artists,
Right.
essentially.
Right. But people will lose people's jobs. Some people will lose their jobs. Many people's jobs will change. It's not going to
And
stay the same.
there will probably be new jobs of like people
Right.
that can think and they can get out of the AI what the employer wants. So they'll be hired and they might not even have drawing skills.
My friend sent me, he's like, where AI is being used right now? He said, I'm seeing it on like educational or like infotainment or edutainment videos, where when they used to do is pull stock footage and stock images to like fill in, what they're talking about. Now they're just like, he sent me this Instagram reel or whatever about the history of Rome. And half the images in there were AI generated images, like showing specific Romans doing specific things, right?
Interesting.
And so I'm like, okay, this video wouldn't exist in this way prior to AI. It wouldn't be possible unless you hired an artist and shelled out, $5,000 for them to do the illustrations for you or the Photoshop work or whatever. So the person, so like that job no one was going to get that job anyway, because that guy didn't have the money to pay for that. So it's like a job wasn't lost, but something was created that wouldn't exist before. So that's like one of these gray areas where I'm like, this is an example of no one's losing a job here, but it is filling a need. I guess the person that's losing a job is whoever was doing stock photos, right? Like who's ever, like that might be worrisome for a photographer who's doing stock photos. But even then, how many photographers like have made a career out of stock photos? Like,
Yeah, in the 80s a lot, but now not much.
Right.
But
So,
I also saw usage when I was just kind of going through some of Midjourney's stuff, where like a high school heavy metal band had made the most awesome CD cover they could ever dream of. That, just like you're saying, they weren't going to hire an illustrator or a photographer to make that. They don't have any money. They're in high school, but they made the most badass cover. It looked so heavy metal, and all that stuff kind of leans creepy for some reason right now. And so it's like a perfect genre for it. But exactly like you're saying, no illustrator lost their job, but this high school band now has the coolest cover they could ever imagine. So it's a win in my opinion.
The only problem though is they still got a cover based on free artwork that was provided to these
That's problematic.
to these things. So
That's
if there's a system and here's the really rude double standard is these AI companies have been doing the same thing with music, but they don't touch copyrighted music because they don't want a lawsuit from the music industry. Well, there's no art industry capital letters, right? There's no artist big enough represented by a big enough company that's going to sue because their images are being used, right? Like you don't have, name a artist who's on the level of like Taylor Swift in as far as notoriety and popularity and success, financial and just images sold. Thomas Kinkade maybe, right? Like he's dead though, right? And so because these companies aren't worried about photographers and artists like suing them, they're just using the images and we're just going to use them, whatever. So I think the solution there is some sort of legislation or some sort of pressure. It probably has to come from government because companies don't want to get sued, right? They don't want to have to factor in legal fees to their bottom line, and to get them to just say, hey, it's illegal to use these images procured from these places. Again, I don't know. The cream's like in the coffee, right? Like, I don't like if they scrape Pinterest, Pinterest is just pulling images from everywhere anyway, which they have. They scrape Pinterest. So I don't know, but
that's tough.
Yeah, something has to be done there. So I think I'm in favor of ethical AI, and weary about the current AI, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep making my art and hopefully growing an audience
when
for
you
it.
say ethical AI, to me, and what I've seen people talking about online is people that give them images to use in their database. But that's, I mean, if they relied on that, there would be no AI art, right? Because what would be the incentive to give them images? So it only, to
Well,
me, it
I mean,
only really works
No,
if they're able
public
to.
domain. Public
it'd be
domain
public
is
domain,
massive.
which
That's
you
not
could do
that
some
big
pretty
compared
crazy
to
stuff. You could do some really cool stuff with public domain images and art. You know, you have all the classical paintings, all the romantic era paintings.
Yeah, but it would all end up looking like that because here's the problem. They wouldn't be able to say, hey, give me a book cover in the style of James Jean because it would have no data.
Right. No, and
Right.
that's I'm fine with that.
You know, one thing I've noticed lately with
Now
Google
James Jean
Images,
can get a book cover deal.
Right. No, I'm fine with that too, but I'm just saying it severely hampers it. So I don't know how it
Right.
would.
What were you going to say, Will?
I've noticed something new in the last year with Google Images in that, and I'm sure our listeners would know way more about this than me, but sometimes I make flyers and posters for our church events.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the past, I've been able to go on Google Images, and if I need like a border, let's say, right, for a flyer, and I would just hit, I'd type in a few words and pull up a bunch of borders. There were a ton of images that were free, right, that people had just put out there for whatever reason. And now it seems like they're mostly linking to stock illustration sites, which is interesting. So they all have the watermarks on all the images now. So in the past, they would link to non-watermarked images, but now it's all for sale stuff.
Yep. I bet there's something going on there. Yeah. I want to say this, going back to what Lee brought up with if the data set just had public domain and like anything public domain, photography to artwork or whatever. But with the technology that we have, you could you could have it running off your system or an account that you own or you pay for, but you could upload all of the artwork you've ever created into there and say, okay, now do my style.
Oh, I like that.
Would you go for that?
Personal
so that
art
only
robot.
you would have access to that, not anybody else, but just you would have access to that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would, because then, you could theoretically create things that you wouldn't, you could see some really cool things that you wouldn't have thought of. And you could make the modifications because it's your style. And you could pick and choose what you wanted to keep, what you wanted to delete, modify.
But does I mean, for you, is creating art the painting part or the concepting part? Like, where's the art?
So my mind is in two places, right? When it comes to art, like because I don't know if other people are like this, but until I have a certain number for my retirement, I don't feel like I can afford to play at my work. You know what I mean? So like one thing that I've always really wanted to do is start doing some en plein air painting, right? Like for fun, just go out with a backpack and some art supplies and a lunch and paint from nature. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I don't do it because I feel like my creative time needs to be spent on projects that can make money. Now, some people would say, well, you can make money doing that. You could sell those paintings. Sure. But that's starting a whole nother business. And I know where I can make money now. And so I do that. So there's a part of me that wants to make paintings for fun, and making a physical painting is not going to, AI really isn't going to compete with that for a while, probably because like you said, that, people want that handcrafted.
Yeah. Until they make robots that can like.
Yeah. that someone else made. So I think that's probably safe for quite a while if you're thinking about it for money. But for me, it's the fun of mixing colors and drawing and recreating, and designing and using all those skills I've developed, right? So there's that. But then when it comes to making a product to sell, anything that can cut time for me is a worthy pursuit in that goal. Because the satisfaction is not just it's not just in making the thing, it's in coming up with an idea that people want.
Yeah.
That they want to spend their money on.
I see.
I have a request for 2023.
Okay.
2 words need to be eliminated from all art vocabulary.
Okay.
Unless you're in France, don't say in plein air. I hate it.
I did that because I knew it would bother you.
Oh, you went outside and painted?
In plein air.
Say you went outside. It's the same freaking thing.
Outside painting.
And then giclée is the other word. Oh, you mean an inkjet print? Oh no, it's a giclée.
I'm with you on that. Well, that was a marketing.
Inkjet prints cost $5. Giclées cost $45.
That's right.
No more.
It's fun. It was really funny. I had to tell a really quick anecdotal story on that. Going to Snelson Photocolor Lab in Springville when I used to live in Utah. He had some of the best printers money could buy, but he would not spend the money to get whatever the giclée name was. So there's these every print manufacturer out there is competing with making great printers, and I didn't know the difference, so I wanted some prints, and I was like, yeah, but I'm really looking for a giclée. And watching him, knowing him now, and watching the pain of him trying to explain that his printers are just as good, but they don't have that name. It was funny, and then I got to watch him do it with someone else after I knew about it, and it's just funny.
That's awesome.
All right, should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up in plein air.
All right, everybody. I don't know why I talk like that, but all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
In plein air episode.
I just want to close this episode by saying thank you who's listening to this show, because we love doing it and we appreciate the support for you doing it. And a thanks to our patrons who've been supporting us over there. You guys are rock stars. So that's great. And thank you to everybody who signed up for SVS this year in 2022. So we really appreciate that as well.
What do patrons get for other than, paying a little bit of money every month?
Oh, they're going to get every month. The 3 of us do a pro tip. We just show what we're working on and how we did it, how we accomplished, that particular thing. And they varied from Lee showed us how he does composition really easy with 3 levels of values. I showed a cool trick that I do in Photoshop to get a nice effect. And Will, you've showed how you do. You showed some of your pickleball book, how you were made your backgrounds really easy.
Yeah,
going in that one. So it's cool stuff like that. And we do Patreon hangouts, not hangout. We do live episodes with patrons. So people are asking their questions live. We're answering them live, which is really cool. Okay, so yeah, 3-Point Perspective. It's made possible by SVSLearn.com and our Patreon. Your hosts are Will Terry, Lee White, and I'm Jake Parker. Lee White can be found at LeeWhiteIllustration.com and Will Terry at WillTerry.com. And go ahead, you can find me at MrJakeParker.com. Click on that website. Check it out. Podcast produced by Daniel 2. That's Daniel TU, and his website is daniel2.co. Keeper of the curriculum. Special thanks to him, Austin Shirtliff. Special thanks to Shownotes Wrangler, Lily Howell. And special thanks to our Chief Operations Officer, Lisa Fott. Now, go draw something. I forgot. I was going to ask about, have you guys seen the trailer for 65?
I hadn't even heard of it.
I haven't heard of it.
I'll
So,
pull it up.
If they made, if Hollywood made a movie for me, it would be this movie. It's
really
the same team or whatever. It's from the people who brought you Quiet Place. It stars Adam Driver, Kylo Ren guy. right?
And,
Right.
and what about, it wasn't the guy from The Office part of that whole setup? So is he involved?
I don't know. He's probably a producer on it or something. But this guy's in a spaceship. He gets hit by an asteroid. He crash lands on the nearest planet. And it turns out, well, you should just watch the trailer, but it turns out.
I'm watching it right now.
Turns out it's somehow, well, do you want me to spoil the trailer?
No, don't spoil anything. But is he Kylo Ren in this one? He's not? How am I going to not think of him?
movie.
Is he Jurassic Park?
No, he's not Jurassic
How am I going to
Park.
think of him as not Kylo Ren?
How can you say it's not Jurassic Park? He's now stuck in a dinosaur world.
So he gets stuck in 65 million years ago on Earth, is what it is.
So it's Star Wars meets Jurassic Park.
Exactly.
That's
I
pretty amazing.
can't think of a better
Oh,
movie
this is
pitch.
cool. It's a cool
Throw in some
idea.
Avatar and I'm sold.
I agree.
pretty
I
cool.
agree. I'm sold on that one too.
Have you guys heard of the Netflix disease?
No.
You heard of that?
But I did learn what Netflix and chill means.
Don't.
After
We don't
using
wanna
it
go-
on the podcast, not knowing what it meant. But what,
Don't say anything you don't know.
what is
Not
The
gonna say
Netflix
anything.
disease is described as the fact that now that people like to binge watch series, and so Netflix spends money producing series and shows and stuff, and what they try to do is take a 2-hour movie and stretch it over a season,
yeah.
of episodes.
How
And
long
so
is the season now?
I don't know,
12.
but the idea is that you have to sit through an hour and you're almost ready to quit because they're not giving you any meat. There's no real plot twists or turns. And then right at the end of an episode, they finally give you something to hook you into the next one. And so you're like wasting your time. And we were watching that 1883 thing. I think it's 1883 or 93. It's 1923 or 4. Anyway, it's the one where it starts on the ship, and it was so slow, and things were like not going anywhere that I'm like, I think I'm done. Like, this is not hooking me. And then Lily pulls up a review, and this guy lays it all out. I don't know if he described the Netflix disease, but he says, this is the thing this is another one that falls into that. And so he says, watch Dark instead. So we switched over to that one.
Dark? Is that any good?
It is. That one was moving. I mean, it's like it was written to be
I don't know the Dark.
episodes.
Is Netflix? All right, so Netflix disease is what Netflix has. Netflix has the disease, or people
Netflix
have
has the disease of putting out basically fluff. Like
That's
taking a
weird
story.
name. It's like if Will's annoying, we call it Will's disease
I know
because
it's
he's
not
being
really
too
the
Will.
Dark. How far are you into Dark, Will?
second episode.
Oh man, I don't want to be the buzzkill then.
Oh, why? You saw it?
Yeah, it's
You didn't like it?
freaking terrible.
Really?
Up until I was exactly like you. I was hooked. Thought this was great. It almost like had a little older version of Stranger Things in a way.
Right.
Felt like that. It goes so wild, kind of like this metaverse and all this kind of stuff where you can't tell where people are, what time they're in, where anything's going on. You're just, I mean, the whole time you're just like, where are they? Who are they? Who's
Oh,
that?
it's hard to
wait,
follow.
That's her mom, but as a baby, and like, it gets wild. Like, it started so good and so clear and so easy. Yeah, I mean, it's worth the first season. After that, it's a wash.
Oh, interesting.
But see how you think. I mean, maybe you won't feel
Nothing's
that way.
good anymore.
I saw on the plane the first 2 episodes of Three Pines because it was recommended. Pops up on my Netflix. You guys know that one?
I've seen it.
It's like you saw it?
No, just seen it pop up.
Suck.
Pines.
Total suck. It's like a murder mystery, and then this guy, he's like a clear thinking detective, sympathetic.
Doesn't it have Chris Pine in it?
Main character does not have Chris Pine.
Because maybe I'm thinking of something else.
But so let me just tell you real quick. Three Pines, started off okay, just like almost all these series. Like the first 5 minutes is fine, but then so this guy goes to this little small town. He's investigating this murder. I'm not kidding. Every single hunch he just has hunches, and they're all correct, and they're so far fetched.
I don't like movies like that.
So I was just
where
going
it's
there
like,
going, you
okay,
gotta be kidding me.
so there's no story here if the guy, the main character, isn't right about every little hunch thing.
It's like
If he gets one wrong, then the girl dies.
right.
Yeah.
And this one was so wild. He'd be like, with no prompt, he'd be like, I bet this girl has a long lost mother, and the mother might be living in the town under a different name. Just pulls that out of freaking thin air. Oh, there she is. There she is right there at the cafe.
Yeah.
God. Oh my God.
Not a fan of those.
I was glued to it because I had to keep watching it because two things happened on the flight too. I was sitting next to like a 5 or 6 year old, and for about 15 or 20 minutes, he just looked at my face. I could see him out of the corner of my eye, and then he started.
I love those kids.
I was wearing a down jacket, that has like the pleated little rose and stuff, and he starts petting my arm, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. He's going like this, like a cat would do or something. And he even did that with my laptop. He started scratching my, the little grid that's your speakers. He starts zick, 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 zick,
Did
zick.
he cough up a hairball?
He did. He was black and white and orange. No, it was bizarre.
Right,
and the mom didn't say anything. Okay, let's go ahead. That's getting off
Let's start
topic.
this episode. Because if I'm bored, I know whoever's listening to this is bored.
Well, this isn't part of the podcast. I'm just talking to you guys. But anyway, that's why I watched the film, because I was like uncomfortable to do anything else because I was being watched.
That's the worst. Like, I will say this, Allison, she is a talker, like friendly, I'll talk to you if you want. She respects people. Like if they don't want to talk, she doesn't talk.
Right.
But she's always fishing for conversations just to, because people
Pass
are
the time.
lonely and they need someone to talk to. I get on an airplane, I put on my headphones, and I
Exactly.
just completely shut down. Like I'm that guy. Do not say anything to me. Do not talk to me. I love it. I love just being in my own little, like, I don't know, 5 foot by 1 foot.
You don't want somebody to
world
say something.
for 2 hours or 3 hours, however long the flight is. I don't want to talk.